Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back another Hong Kong content review, diving straight into this one guys for the Abbot of Shaolin, also known as the Slice of Death, released in 1979, directed by Pai Mei, who did the Flying Guillotine movies. He also has done the Black Magic, which I didn't like. It's probably the only film that I've seen of this director. He's a big Shaw Brothers director. He's done a lot of content behind his belt, maybe another director to check out down the line, but I haven't seen much of his work. And this stars David Chung, which is the main leading character, and this is part of the Pai Mei unofficial trilogy, first being The Executioners of Shaolin, directed by Lau Kar-leung, and this one was a sort of follow-up to that, while also acting as a prequel slash sequel, and then eventually leading into the Clan of the White Lotus, which concludes that little mini trilogy, which I'll be doing, which is quite exciting to kind of dive into this kind of stuff and to kind of accidentally find it. And it's very fascinating. And this film is pretty easy to get. If you want to watch this, guys, on HD, it is available on YouTube right now. To go ahead, it's available to go and watch, guys. Or if you want to own the film, it is available part of the Shaw Brothers Volume 4 box set, part of the Screen Factory edition is included in that edition, alongside Cloud of the White Lotus, alongside many other kind of Venom Mob kind of movies. And as mentioned, this is part of the Pai Mei trilogy, whether that's intentional or unintentional. They brought back the same actor from The Executioners of Shaolin, and also he returns in his own directed and starring film, The Clan of the White Lotus, and he's back in this film as well as a more of an extended kind of cameo. This film is very simple. There's not much to really say ultimately. It's a very kind of standard Hong Kong Shaw Brothers film entry. You know, a lot of people, surprisingly, on Letterboxd and some of the reviews that I have seen, really don't like this film and really kind of give it a bashing, but I think it's pretty harmless. I think it's a nice, simple, film. I think it's very kind of fast-paced, surprisingly. You know, it's an hour and a half movie. It doesn't waste too much of your time. I think it's pretty effective for what it's trying to do. You know, it's very standard stuff ultimately, but I think it gets you there, definitely. I think the story is pretty well told. I think the characters are likable. I think the action's pretty good. It surprisingly gets quite violent in some places. Pai Mei is really good in the film also. He definitely turns up and he's definitely bringing the badass kind of nature stuff. You know, he's killing people and giving some smackdown kind of talk, which is great. Our main leading character is a kind of Shaolin monk, and this is the opening of the film, which is basically the Shaolin temple, establishing who they are, and basically there's secret kind of meetings. There's kind of like a secret passway underneath the kind of the water well, and basically this idea of the kind of Imperials basically fearing the power of the Shaolin kind of monks. Essentially, they are gaining too much power. They have got skill sets, and this idea of kind of re-seizing kind of power, against them and destroying their temples. And you follow our main leading character, which basically comes back from a kind of mission away, comes back and finds out basically the temple has been destroyed, and basically the beginning of the start of the Execution of Shaolin has begun. Essentially, the kind of the Imperial kind of nature has gone full force, and Pai Mei is one of the kind of Imperials are going against him essentially and killing even the master, and basically kind of dishes out some pretty nasty violence in between, and while having a few other characters, or David Chung, who's basically is a Shaolin monk who has to basically go on a kind of a mission, a monastery mission, to basically raise funds to basically rebuild the temples. Essentially, he's got he's got some pretty effective skill sets, which he definitely demonstrates throughout the film. A little bit more kind of enjoyment than I would expect to see a Shaolin monk to actually do. I'm not too sure, but he's really kind of dishing out some pretty harsh judgment and some pretty nasty violence towards some of his components, especially showing them up. And there's some bits where he definitely gets a bit bloody and a bit nasty, surprisingly, which is good. It's a nice surprise. I wasn't really expecting in this film. Being the fact I went in with a certain expectations, being a kind of a low budget, very kind of dull kind of affair kind of thing, but surprisingly it's quite fast paced for an hour and a half. It's quite an engaging story with this kind of Shaolin temple monk basically gaining a bit of a kind of a posse of people, other skill sets, some people that want to basically learn from him, people that are basically following on his kind of crusader mission to basically rebuild the temples and to basically stop down kind of any kind of adversaries along the way. And their mission is to, by the end of the film, is to get out of this location and to basically start somewhere kind of fresh and to kind of rebuild the temple. And this introduces the kind of the boats, the red boats, which is introduced within the Execution of Shaolin, where a lot of the kind of the Shaolin monks fled from and did peaking opera performances. And basically spread the message around. And yeah, this is a kind of a little story, a little pocket story that happens, I'm guessing so, alongside the events of Execution of Shaolin. You could say it's a prequel. You could say it's a bit of a sequel on top of it as well, because it's showing the kind of the in what's going on in the meat of it, what's happening during that time, where the kind of Execution of Shaolin was the aftermath, and then there's a bit of a time jump with these characters kind of moving on and trying to find their purpose again, and coming back to their revenge mission later on in the film. The Abbot of Shaolin, aka Slice of Death, is a pretty effective, nice, simple film. I think it works really well alongside the kind of Execution of Shaolin and the Cloud of the White Lotus. If you haven't seen any of those films, I think you're going to still enjoy what this film has to offer. It's nice, simple fun. It doesn't go anything too extravagant, but the fights are pretty solid. There's some surprising violence. The characters are likable. Our main character is very charismatic. I actually quite liked his performance, and a lot of familiar cast members as well. Pai Mei's kind of second round this time around on Betrayal is very much in line with the first movie, and I think he's always very much welcome, and his presence, his kind of attitude, his fighting's great, and he definitely just uses all that kind of that villainous kind of essence that we want to see for sure. What are your thoughts and opinions on this film? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts on the unofficial Pai Mei kind of trilogy with Execution of Shaolin, and next up being the Clan of the White Lotus? What is your favorite kind of entry? Is it even the Kill Bill entry version of the character? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions, guys. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.